helping people find their zone of genius to impact others' lives. And if we think about that, it gives people the freedom and scope to understand that leadership doesn't have to be this servant leadership, or it doesn't have to be this charismatic leadership, or it doesn't have to be this authoritative leadership. It really comes down to understanding what you really excel at, what you really love doing, what you're great at, but ultimately, how are you going to use that natural talent, or, for my words, I call it success DNA, to impact others' lives. The biggest mistake that I see time and time again with most people that go from sales to leadership is they go from instantly being the talent to instantly trying to be the manager. And they try to manage the people, try to share in a way that says, this is what I do. This is how I would do it. This is my way of doing it. And the reality is they're very different skill sets. So it's easier to do this in the entrepreneurial world, but the best thing I tell people is listen, understanding that one of your natural skills, or the developed skills as a salespeople, is you have the ability to motivate. Don't try to build an organization that puts you into a skill set that you're a novice or you're not good at. Build an organization, what I call around your success DNA, which is what do you as a leader do well in the organization, and start to build your team and the systems and structure around that.
Hey, what's up, Masters? Today we are here with Mr. Alex Kuhn. Alex, what's up, man?
Hey, David, really, really glad to be here. And just even the conversation before this, it's like, I feel like this one's going to flow. I feel like this is going to be a good episode.
I hope, yeah, I think so, man. I try to have them all flow, and hope this will flow even better. So that's awesome, man. And now, do you have a book, Born to Lead? Or I probably should ask you that before we were talking.
Nah, that's okay.
Podcast.
Yeah, I don't. I actually don't. It's actually our intro program for people that are, doing a lot of one-on-one work, and they're ready to start, transitioning into that leader of an organization and building more group models. But I will say next year, our first book coming out, SuccessDNA, will be coming out next year. So awesome. Stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to get a copy of that. So a little bit about you for our listeners, and then I'll have you fill in some of the gaps, Alex. You're a founder of Born to Lead, which helps entrepreneurs unlock their unique leadership gift to start to grow in, 6, 7, 8, even 10-figure business. Wow, that 10-figure business sounds pretty nice, huh?
With more than that person there. So.
Yeah. With more than 200 success stories from around the world, you've been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Buzzfeed. You're one of the top college swim coaches. Gosh, we got to talk about that for a minute. You started your business journey only to fail in your first 3 years. And then after a weekend of soul searching and asking tough questions, you decided to throw everything out, trust your intuition, and start leading, which I love, man. And we talked a little bit about this before. My journey with leadership, man, just it's awesome. I think a lot of salespeople go through that. And, yeah. So anything else you want to add to that?
No, man, I think you said it. And obviously it's funny how, when we put this bio together, the first thing everyone wants to talk about is the swimming career. So I'm glad that we always threw it in, because swimming every analogy I use there's a fish involved in it. I don't know why, but I clearly come from that swimming background.
Well, I do a lot of coaching, and I always use, I did a 70.3 race in 2019. It was my first Ironman race. And I didn't know how to swim when I signed up. Like, I knew how to swim. Like, I could get from one end of the pool to the other, but there's a big difference between that in swimming a 1.2 mile race. And I always remember going through that. And the first time I went and I swam, I called the guy that I agreed to do it with, and I said, there's no way I can do this, man. I said, I can't do this. And in my mind, I'm like, there's no effing way I can do this. It's impossible. Thinking, okay, I just swam 2 laps. I can't breathe. I'm dead. I just drank water. There's no way I'm going to do 72 of those. Like, it felt impossible. And, the guy said, I won't say exactly what he said, but basically he said, stop being a B word and hire a coach. And that was when it clicked, like, really, there's swim coaches? And I was at the YMCA, and but anyway, yeah, you're a swim coach, right? I mean, how tough is swimming, man? That's crazy. Like I swim a lot now. I'm a swimmer now. 2.5 years. I
Really?
swim 3 days a week. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
That- that's like actually I think that's the best story is that listen, I did it obviously at a high level and you're working with the Olympians and everything like that, but I'll tell you something, there is a specialty, when I talk, I used to, obviously I was in California coaching and I was talking to a lot of triathlon coaches and they'd ask to bring in their triathletes to do some different things because there's a different strategy if you weren't a natural swimmer or you weren't trained as a swimmer to get into
Mm,
triathlons versus to be, a competitive swimmer. Because obviously one of the natural parts of being a triathlon is that the whole race, right? It's like about 10 to 20% is swimming, right? So one of the strategies I remember we would talk to these triathletes was like, listen, part of it is to save your legs. Part of it is to create higher levels of balance while you're swimming so that, yeah, you want to move faster, but you want to get out of that water where basically your legs are as fresh as
yeah.
you possibly can there. And that was like always a strategy we would work with a lot of these high level triathletes because they would be doing 6 feet kicks. For anybody that's listening, you're like, oh my gosh, he's geeking out now. But a lot of them are doing these 6 feet kicks to stay afloat. And it was like, listen, let's get your body balance better. Let's get your arms in the right position, how they cycle, so that you can go to a 2 beat kick or really not use your legs as much. So yeah, man, I give you credit
Yeah,
for
I saw. Yeah,
yeah.
you're going in the weeds now with the swimming. I love it. So here's the cool thing about the swimming with me is it's a lot easier in a wetsuit to swim, which I didn't realize. So the wetsuit keeps you in a better position so that you, at least for me, I was more efficient. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I picked up swimming now. Like I said, I swim 3 days a week, and yeah, it's amazing. So let's and what I even started this conversation on is when I teach people
Mhm.
now or work with people, I love to use Michael Phelps as a metaphor for, I think a lot of people will, like, if Michael Phelps was putting on a presentation on learning how to swim, like he could go and he could use a whiteboard and he could demonstrate and he could show you and tell you, but until you get in the pool, you're not going to get anything. It means absolutely nothing almost until you're in the pool doing it. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is getting in and doing the work. People put so much energy and focus on getting prepared and got to have this perfect. And this needs it. And it just got to sometimes just get in there and get to work. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously I know you are just looking at your background with all the books, right? I'm a big reader myself, but I'll tell you something. I would tell people like I know there's this thing like read a book a week or read a book a day or whatever, everyone says, but I'd rather people just go out and try things. Like instead of reading that book, just go out and just do it. Like whether
Mm,
if you're like I'm trying to be a better leader, great, just go lead. Go try it. Just even like you'll learn so much more in just an hour to trying to get people to buy into your vision or get people to be more motivated in their rules within your company or whatever that looks like for you. But to me there's so much more practicality and learning from that experiential side than there is just from the reading side. And in fact, one of the things I changed after I sold my second company going into this born to lead world and my personal brand was that I was reading a ton of books, right? I was reading so much, but that moment I said, listen, I'm going to actually lower my reading to
mm,
like I don't read as much as I used to. But what I'm going to do is every single day, I'm going to spend at least 30 minutes or an hour doing something that's outside my comfort zone that really kind of
yeah.
pushes me. And that to me has been a much stronger learning component for myself and even my clients than just giving them another book. Read this.
Yeah, I'm in a networking group with Joe Polish, and Joe says, instead of reading 50 books, read one book and master that book,
Mhm.
and then move on to the next book. And I think a lot of us, what we tend to do is try to say, "Oh my God, I got a Facebook post. I read 40 books last year, but yet I've implemented zero." You know what I mean? So let's switch gears. How did you get started in the leadership, man? It's Born to Lead. How'd you start with that? Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
Oh man, everyone loves to say, "Oh, I'm obsessed with leadership," but I always tell people this: is that to me, leadership sometimes has gotten almost too academic in terms of how people say it. And really, I always love to start with the definition. Very simply, is this: is that helping people find their zone of genius to impact others' lives. And if we think about that, it gives people the freedom and scope to understand that leadership doesn't have to be this servant leadership, or it doesn't have to be this charismatic leadership, or it doesn't have to be this authoritative leadership. It really comes down to understanding what you really excel at, what you really love doing, what you're great at, but ultimately, how are you going to use that natural talent, or for my words, I call it success DNA, to impact others' lives. And,
Mm.
it's been something that's always leadership has always been a combination of coming naturally to me and also been a struggle for me. And when I say it comes naturally to me, like it's always been easy for me to step up and try to, take charge. If somebody asked me to take charge, I'm happy to do it. It was always something like anyone that volunteered, boom, my hand would go up immediately. So that part came easy to me. But where I struggled is like in every single situation, I wasn't always the best swimmer on the swim team, or I wasn't the best student in school, or I wasn't the go-to person in that organization. But so I had to learn ways to create higher levels of clarity, connection, and conviction in others, whether it's through
Mm.
communicating, whether it's through how I bonded with them. And so that's part of the leadership that I've kind of worked and developed in myself, and working with incredible, like you said, people that are doing $6-7 billion, and helping them honestly hone in their leadership traits to be able to serve those and others.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I can, we before we started recording, we were chatting a little bit. I feel like one of my challenges, and there's been many ceilings that I hit in my business where my leadership, my level of leadership was what caused me to get stuck. And until I could become a better leader, that's because of, it's like you talked about it. One part of leadership, like you said, is stepping up and saying, okay, I'm going to do that. But another part of leadership is leading people, helping other people become successful, encouraging people. Right. So when you say born to lead, I mean, is anybody really born to lead?
It's my favorite question, because I
Yeah.
love to
Right.
tell people that it's actually a dichotomy, because I get some of the people will say like, oh, you have to grow and be a leader. You have to train. Like, no one's born a lead. And I said, well, let me go a little deeper on this. So if obviously, David, you've got this incredible skill set, right? And I've got this incredible skill set, but yet at the same time, we were born with a very different, unique skill set. So the question is, are we going to just say leadership is just this one way and that's how everybody's got to do it? Or are we going to say, listen, this is Dave's clear skill set. He's clearly, whether it's through experiences, whether it's through, innate abilities, whether it's through genetics, this is the easiest way for David to lead. So why would I, if as a leadership
Mm.
person, mentor, say, David, you should do what I do. This is how I do it. That's BS. And so the point is that first and foremost, most leaders struggle with this concept that it's not about trying to lead like others, or how Amazon built their business, or how Elon Musk leads, or how Gary Vaynerchuk curses, so we all should curse on video. It's about saying what comes naturally to David. Let's develop that. Now let's develop the people and organization around that are going to not only align with who he is, but resonate. So ultimately, he can be more intuitive as his decision-making process. And that's where Born to Lead comes in. It's about the idea that everybody's supposed to lead differently, but we're all born to lead.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Got I can buy that. So so let me ask you. So we got a lot of salespeople listening here.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you work with a lot of salespeople, right? What
Mhm.
would you say in your, is the biggest challenge, with people that reach out, like when it comes to leadership? Like I kind of shared a little bit of
Yeah.
mine, like, I need to be a better leader so that people are engaged, want to follow me. I have empathy as part of, like, there's all these things. What would you say? Well, before we even answer that, maybe that's a better question to start off is what would you say are some, like say 3 top traits of a really great leader?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I actually talk about traits not as just great traits to have, but traits that define the performance of a leader. Right. And so these are things we've studied with, thousands of entrepreneurial leaders and business leaders. And I had other companies where we work with parents and all these different things. But there's these traits that actually the people that are following them or on their team, that they find that they have higher levels of trust, likability, respect, and ultimately the people on those teams and organization achieve a higher level of success. And those traits are honesty, integrity, and courage. And I'll explain
Mm.
very quickly what each one means, because they sound so like, well, blah. Okay, they're blah. But let me explain what they actually mean. Honesty simply means this, is that, are you looking at yourself and your organization and people with a black and white cone? Instead of saying we're great at everything or we suck at everything, are we able to say this is what we're good at, this is what we're bad at, this is where we are today, this is where we want to be tomorrow? So really, leaders are very clear in basically in saying that from a pure, they can be optimistic, but they got to say this is the reality today. The second trait is integrity. And most leaders cannot get people to buy into something that they don't believe in themselves. So for
Mm,
me to sit here and sell leadership, if I don't believe leadership is the most important aspect of business building, it's going to come across no matter how good at sales I am. And most, I think you probably agree with this, most salespeople,
yeah.
if they sell something they don't believe in, it's hard for them to sell, no matter how great other aspects of their salesmanship is. So that's another part of leadership, is that you got to really believe in what you are selling, no matter what the company's selling, what the organization's all about, et cetera. And then finally, the third piece is courage. And now most people that we think about when it comes to leaders, we think of people that not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. So if your leader isn't demonstrating in some capacity that they are willing to walk the walk that they're asking other people to do, then most people aren't going to buy into it. They're not going to have the conviction to go that extra mile. But when they see that leader doing things that, whoa, that's impressive, or whoa, I appreciate that, or whoa, that's where it came from, I'm more likely to buy into that person and have more higher levels of courage myself. So those are the three traits every single day. We literally have a scorecard. I tell people, it's like, listen,
Mm,
are you practicing these traits at higher levels, deeper levels, more consistently on a day in and day out basis? But those are the three traits we always go back to with everybody.
mm. So honesty, integrity, courage.
Courage.
Love it, man. I love what you said too. I'm taking a lot of notes here as we're speaking, and you can't buy into something that you don't believe in yourself. Or them. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, it's it's interesting because I think about it, and like if you, let's say you're not even 100% confident on yourself, or you're not confident, then you're selling yourself as a leader, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you, I mean, how many times have we been in a situation where we just like, I always like, here's my great example. If we've gone to that party, somebody said, hey, go to this party or go to this event, and you get there and it just, you feel out of place. Everyone I feel like has been to that event or been to that party or been to that club or whatever it looks like.
Sure.
And you're in there and it doesn't feel right. And you can rationalize it all you want. Oh, they're wearing different clothes. I don't like the music. Oh, I don't know the people, whatever it is. But you go there and you just instinctively feel it. And that to me is really why I talk about leadership, not as this analytical piece, but this intuitive process. You either feel it or you don't. And there is that, I always kind of call it the snap finger rule. If you instantly can't say absolutely, then you're probably going to struggle to build that organization, build that company around it there. I think I can't think, I'm forgetting his name. The guy who was a CEO of Virgin Airlines, Richard Branson. So, I remember a friend of mine, he said, listen, Richard has a rule. He's like, he'll meet with you for 5 minutes and he'll tell you right away in 5 minutes, either you're going to be in his life forever or you're not. And I think that's
Mm.
something that most leaders are forgetting, is that we're allowed to trust our gut. We're allowed to trust our intuition. We're allowed to not always have to Google search and analyze everything to death. We're allowed to instantly say, this is a right fit or this is not the right fit.
That's awesome. I'm in a network now with Joe. I don't know if have you heard of Genius Network? You familiar with those guys?
I know Joe. Yeah, Joe's great. Yeah,
Oh,
awesome.
awesome. Cool. Yeah. So I joined Genius, and you're familiar with Elf then.
Yes.
I am running everything through Elf these
Mhm.
days, and it's such a fantastic filter. It was even my wife the other night. My wife's like, real estate's not Elf right now. I
Yeah.
just started laughing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so awesome. I mean, for people listening, you want to tell them what do you want Nell, or do you want
No,
me to
go for it,
tell?
man. It's all you there. So
Yeah, yeah. So ELF just is an acronym for easy, lucrative, and fun, and it's just a great filter to run everything through. I was having a conversation with somebody a week and a half ago about renting a property, and I knew 5 minutes into this was not going to be ELF working with this person, and that was it. It was that clear. You know what I mean? So it's just really cool. What I do want to talk about though is was there a moment for you that you needed to, like, you just knew I had to? I mean, you weren't born a great leader, right? Was there a moment, like your moment, that said, okay, wow, I need to work on my leadership? And that's where you kind of said, okay, I'm gonna work on becoming a better leader. Could
you
you
know,
share that?
Yeah, it's funny because I look back, I mean, and I don't mean this is like I was a kid genius in leadership, but there was always a part that I always kind of gravitated towards it. I can remember this true story. So my father and I, we have a great relationship, one of those relationships where, even as a kid, like we kind of just jazz each other, try to pick on each other, try to get a little rise out of each other. And, even to this day, in just like a fun loving way. And I can remember one day I came actually after home from swim practice, and I was telling my dad about my day. And I could tell my dad was just trying to get a little rise out of me, in a joking way. He's like, he goes, Alex, 9 years old. He's like, I think you're being a follower. I think you're kind of trying to follow what other people are telling you should or shouldn't do. And as a kid, not even understanding why, I just got angry. I was so mad. I literally was mad at my dad, and like, little 9-year-old tantrum, and pouted, and we wouldn't talk to him for the rest of the day. But I think there's always been something for me that I've always just felt that I was either working on it, unconsciously, whether it was being on the sports teams. But I think there was always this step where as I've continued to evolve and grow, and obviously my first job out of school, like I had a great opportunity with Nike and their marketing department, and a great job and great paid stuff. And what did I do? I took the $20,000 a year assistant swim coaching job in Iowa. I've never been to Iowa. And it was one of those situations where I tend to find time and time again, where I was like, I always gravitated towards those places where I was leading people. So I was always
Mm,
practicing it at some level. It just didn't happen till later in life when I said, hey, there's a model. There's a way I'm starting to think about this. There's a way I'm starting to see things and how I do it, but how I'm seeing other leaders do it. I was always reading books about leaders. So it was just one of those things that I just gravitated to
yeah.
naturally. And
Good for
ultimately
you.
there, I just, that's what I love doing day in,
Good
day
for
out.
you. Well, I wish, yeah, I wish that wasn't my situation. I had to deal with extraordinary amounts of pain of growing these businesses, and then my top people leave because I'm a jerk, and then I just say they're jerks, and then it took years to figure out that it was me. So anyway,
Lesson for all of us as leaders to learn, right? I mean, and listen, it doesn't,
yeah,
the funny thing is even great leaders are bad leaders, right? This isn't about
yeah,
it's practice. It's, to me, this is not about like, sometimes we think of this as an identity of somebody. And because some people like, here's the thing, right? Like you said, a lot of salespeople are listening to this because the question is, Alex, do you think I'm a leader? Like, do you think I could be a leader? They ask that if they could be it. And the question is why do we set this as an identity as opposed to a practice? And I think, David, you said
mm,
it so beautifully. You may have not been a swimmer before, but once you start practicing, now you swim 3 days a week, and you're clearly probably you have a higher aptitude and
I'm better.
ability.
I'm not where I want to be by any
Well,
means, but yeah,
it's not
it's
Michael Phelps level today, but
not even close. Yeah,
but it's a practice, and I think that's the thing.
sure. Yeah. Well, and again, it's like we touched on this before we started recording is I think, we can become a really, really great salesperson by using our charm and using some sales skills and persuasion. Those are completely different skills. That's a different skill level. Like a lot of people think, oh, just because I can do that now, I can start leading people. And
Mhm.
they're two completely different, like you said, they're different sets of skills. But and to that point, so let's go back to what
Yeah.
would you say are the biggest challenges you're seeing with people when it comes to leadership?
So, and let's dive into sales. I love sales. I kid you not, there's so many like in all of my clients in Born to Lead, the Vault, every single one of them, I tell them this is that, they tell me about the stories about how they get annoyed with the telemarketer calling or, that sort of thing. And I say, listen, if you actually want more sales in your company, every time that telemarketer calls, you should say, hey, I really appreciate this, but keep up the great work because I know you're trying to build an incredible life for you and those that you care about. And that's like, it sounds so corny. And
Amen, dude. Thanks for
it,
saying that. I
I,
say that.
I
Yeah.
mean it. Here's the thing. My father was in sales. My father's still in sales. So I think I've seen it from the back end of it, understanding that, there's this identity that unfortunately has been following sales. But here's the beautiful thing. And this is why I think for many of the people that come from like a sales background into this leadership world, here's the beauty of it. The biggest mistake that I see time and time again with most people that go from sales to leadership is they go from instantly being the talent to instantly trying to be the manager. and they try to manage the people,
Mm.
try to share in a way that says, this is what I do. This is how I would do it. This is how my way of doing it. And the reality is that they're very different skill sets. So it's easier to do this in an entrepreneurial world. But the best thing I tell people is like, listen, like understanding that one of your natural skills or the developed skills as a salespeople is you have the ability to motivate. You have the ability to get people to buy into your product, into whatever it is that you're selling. You're basically getting them to say yes to you and yes to what you're selling. So, as an organization, the first thing you should be doing is literally, instead of trying to manage people, to just get them to buy into the vision of the organization and continue to motivate it. And what's that movie? The Wolf on Wall Street, right?
Mm.
I mean, the guy wasn't, to me, that's the pure definition. Like he clearly was great at sales, and he ultimately, how he led wasn't by teaching. I mean, he might have taught people how to sell, but really he just got in front of them and motivated them. And at least the story I know about it. So, it wasn't like he was a great manager. It wasn't like he was a great leader in the sense of building an architect or a team. He just did what he was great at. And most leaders think they have to be great at all aspects. It's
Mm.
you got to be great at what you're great at. And then as the organization grows, because you're aligned with your natural talent, ultimately you can find other complementary leaders and their talents to support that vision.
Yeah, I know a lot of really high level salespeople, real estate agents that they understand maybe their skills aren't they don't have the greatest leadership
Mhm.
skills, so they just find somebody who does have those skills and they let them run the business, and then you know what I mean, and they deal with that person. I think that's a great shortcut if you have the humility to just accept it and say, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. I don't have patience, I don't have tolerance, I don't have,
I
right?
love I love the word you said, humility, right? Because this is the point where if we think we should do everything, then great. You build a
Mm,
wonderful practice, solo practice with your assistant, and you can make a great life. I mean, you can make really good money, whether it's real estate, whether it's coaching, whether it's, you're a therapist, right? I mean, and I have a lot of clients that ultimately say they're happy with that. They're happy to have,
sure.
work those 30 hours, doing what they love to do. And they make 400, 500,000 a year, and that's a great life. That's a great life for most people. But if you're really trying to build an organization where you're really trying to build freedom, scalability, all those pieces, then you've got to let go of saying, I've got to be great at everything, but allow myself to start the organization what I'm great at. And as we grow, to finance the things that we're not good at. That to me is the easiest and purest way for most salespeople to really grow. Because what you're great at is getting money into the business. Great. Now you got to be smart about what we need to reinvest back
Mm,
into the business that we aren't good at today.
yeah. And how do we scale the business if we want to, like you
If you
said?
want to. Yeah.
So question, I always ask everybody to send me one question. Your question, why do I think one-on-one is killing most entrepreneurial dreams? What is that?
Yeah, so I about 2 years ago, like, so I sold my digital marketing agency and I got into leadership and building a personal brand and, having some sales skills. We were able to grow it pretty quickly. And I had 37 one-on-one clients. I mean, all over, and obviously was doing some great things, but I also felt like when you feel like you're supposed to put on this earth to make an impact or really build, a company that has some legacy to it, like one-on-one work literally hamstrings you, and not just even time and energy,
Mm,
but literally your dream. Most of us have got into this. I bet most of the people that are in the real estate world and sales world, they're not doing this because, oh, it's easy. In fact, we know it's really difficult. They got into this because they got a dream. They got something bigger in mind than just, to go to their 9 to 5 job. And what happens with one-on-one work is it's great. Most people start there thinking that's an easy way to transition. But I found that when you get into one-on-one work, it is a nightmare to get out of that work. And
mm,
so my rule is to make sure that everybody, no matter where you are, no matter what type of business you have, and even if you're just starting out, is to build group models and
yeah.
build recurring revenue models and immediately do that and start developing that skill as opposed to selling your time for money. So to
Yeah.
me, at the end of the day, anybody that's listening to this, whether you're in real estate or sales and you're trying to build your own organization, can you figure out a way to build it as a group concept and let go of that you have to be the sole proprietor in terms of delivering the product and or service.
Yeah, unless you're Tony Robbins, I guess, and you charge $1 million a year for
There's a
for
difference.
one client, then I guess it's not
Hey,
bad.
and I,
I don't.
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
but you know, $1 million might not be a big deal to him. Like I
sure,
don't
I get it.
there. So that's I always tell people, like, listen, one of my dreams is actually be able to turn away $1 million. That's cut for a
I
lot of
love
people.
it. Yeah.
So
Well, and it's I agree with you 100% on what you said. I mean, we even talked a little bit about this before we started recording. I was coaching one-on-one, and I just stopped doing any one-on-one work. And when people ask me, I just say I don't do it anymore. I guess I could put a price tag on it, but it would, most people aren't going to pay it right now.
yeah, and that's a simple way to get out of it. That's like my
Yeah.
favorite technique to get out of one-on-one work. Because I mean, and the funny thing is you put a price tag out there, and what's amazing is you think nobody's going to pay it, and all of a sudden you realize somebody actually is going to.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I love it. All right. Anything I didn't ask? What should I have asked you? Did I miss anything?
It's funny. I actually, this was, somebody gave me the same questionnaire, and I actually put this question down. I think I even put it on an Instagram post. Was that the one question I don't get is what happens when you practice bad leadership? And this is something that we don't think about. We think about what's obviously the benefits of good leadership, but what happens when you have bad leadership? And here's the funny thing, that two things are going to happen. Number one, if your business may not be successful, right? And that's the easy way to say it. Like most of the times you're not going to be able to track the clients or the team, or you're not going to be able to create a clear vision. You're not going to be able to get your message right. You're not going to be able to understand how to model this for other people. So ultimately your business usually never gets off the ground. The second thing here is that you could have a successful business, but you probably built it on opportunity as opposed to leadership, which ultimately means, and I see this all the time, I see all these people with $1 million businesses, very successful businesses, that they come to me and they're very successful financially, but they are so unfulfilled from a heart's perspective, from a time perspective, from what they really wanted their life to look like, that they want to quit. They want to throw the business away. They want to give up. They want to go back to an easier life. And that's where the crux of leadership is to me. It's not just that, oh, good leadership is going to help you grow a business. No, good leadership is going to allow you to build the necessary structures and systems to actually enjoy the whole entire process.
Yeah. It's funny, just what you just said, it just, brings me back to, this was an awesome interview. Thank you, man. Brings me back to Elf, though. I hate to keep throwing Joe's stuff around, but
No,
it
man,
really,
I
that's what if your business is not Elf, then yeah, what's the point, right? It's like,
it is, yeah. And I mean, obviously, I'm going through this strategic coach. So,
oh,
Dave,
you're in strategic coach?
yeah, and I love
Oh, that's
Dave
awesome, man.
Sullivan, right? I mean, so and these are people
Do you
that
have
like
Who
listen.
Not How, man? Do you have the book? Of course you do, right?
I just got the book the other day. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
and I mean, I think the point is that a lot of times there's these applications, right? Of how I always tell people, listen, when I make a business decision, there's really only three things, and it's very much the same process, right? It's like investment wise, is it going to be worth my investment? Two, people, is it going to be worth being around those people? And three, love. Do I feel like I'm going to love doing this, or I'm going to learn a lot from it? And if I don't say heck yes to all three of them, then I'm out.
Yeah.
So I just love these processes, and I love that you brought that, because it's actually one of my favorite Joe Polish exercises or tools that he uses.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I didn't know you're in strategic coach. That's really cool. I actually bought 50 of Who Not How, and I sent them out, and we're doing a book club. So you're welcome to join our book club if you like. Send me an email after.
Yeah, please.
And I was on a private call with Dan and Ben Hardy, who's been on the podcast too. So, all right. So how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. So obviously I got to have a free offer, right? For everybody that's doing this, right? So you heard me talk about SuccessDNA. So if you go to my website, it's alex-kuhn.com. And if you put /SuccessDNA, I will actually go ahead and send you our SuccessDNA course. We value it. I don't even sell as a course, but we value it at $500. That's actually yours for free. So you can go ahead at alex-kuhn.com /SuccessDNA. And social media wise, I'm on Instagram. So if you want to get actually in touch with me or my team personally, you can go just type in Alex Kuhn. Last name is spelled Kuhn. I think it's the first thing you type in. It comes up on Instagram. I'm there. That's where I share. You might see a reel from me now where I like to lip sing, my favorite 80s and 90s rock songs. So,
there you go.
yeah. So, but that's where I share a lot of like my biggest insights in leadership.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure. Definitely, I appreciate it. I think you were right. It was a good flowing
Likewise.
episode. Some
Well, we got to
flow.
talk about swimming. It's good. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, swimming. I just bought some Roku. I don't know why it took me a year and a half to buy some of those Roku shorts, the ones that
mhm.
the
Yeah,
buoyant ones. Well, because they won't let you use the little thing in the water in the pools anymore. The little
the pool
uh
boy.
yeah, the pool buoy.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, way off topic. So on so people listening to this, I mean, what do you want them to take from, like, if to kind of tie all this together here? I mean, if someone just logged in, like, what would you say? Hey, this is what I want you to take from listening to this today.
Yeah. So I think that the first and foremost thing is that instead of trying to be a leader like other people say you need to be a leader, simply understand what your strengths are currently and how you're going to apply it to impact others' lives. That's the first thing. The second thing is have a leadership scorecard that always starts with how you can practice deeper levels of honesty, integrity, and courage with yourself and your organization, and challenge yourself and your team to do the same. And then the third thing I would highly take away is that don't try to build an organization that puts you into a skill set that you're a novice or you're not good at. Build an organization, what I call around your success DNA, which is what do you as a leader do well in the organization, and start to build your team and the systems and structure around that. That's how you're going to grow the fastest, which ultimately is going to allow you to ultimately invest in other talents to support where you may be weak at.
Awesome, man. And one more time, how do they get
Yeah, sure.
the tool?
Alex, yeah, if you go to Instagram too and you just type SuccessDNA or just message that you were on this show, let me know. We'll definitely, Susan, who's basically like my second wife at work here, she'll get you stuff there. But if you go to my website, it's alex-kuhn.com/SuccessDNA. We'll get you some awesome tools, man. It's made a huge difference. I know for a ton of people, but really it's maybe I'm biased, but I think it's the best in terms of leadership work out there.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, everybody listening. Thank you. And hey, it's not over now. I want you to go to this next video right here. You rock.